In the stillness of the remote forward operating base, only the subtle hum of generators and distant echoes of gunfire disturbed the otherwise silent night. The base, perched precariously on a rocky ridge in a war-torn region, had always been considered secure, yet an unshakable tension hung in the air. Admiral Harrison had been on site to oversee strategic coordination and had walked the perimeter herself earlier that evening, inspecting the defensive lines with a sense of confidence that had, until that point, seemed well-placed. She had observed her officers performing their duties with precision, reviewed the intelligence reports, and briefed the soldiers on anticipated enemy movements. Everything seemed under control, or so she thought. Among the personnel, Lieutenant Commander Elise Monroe moved with an almost imperceptible grace. At first glance, Monroe appeared to be just another officer responsible for tactical planning and liaison work, quietly issuing orders and monitoring communications. Her demeanor was calm, her movements controlled, and her presence unassuming. Few noticed the subtle intensity in her gaze, the way her eyes flickered over every shadow, every corner, every potential line of approach, as if calculating angles, distances, and trajectories all at once. She carried herself with the confidence of someone fully aware of both danger and the art of survival. Yet she revealed nothing, blending into the background like a shadow that belonged to the night itself. To most, she was invisible, a silent node of efficiency that never drew attention. But beneath that calm exterior lay the heart of a predator, a precision marksman trained to operate under the harshest conditions, capable of striking from hundreds of meters away with deadly accuracy, unseen and unheard. The enemy, well-armed and relentless, had begun its approach without warning. Explosions in the distance signaled the start of a coordinated assault, and immediately, the base erupted into chaos. Alarms blared, and soldiers scrambled to their stations, engaging with enemy infiltrators who had breached the outer perimeter. Panic flickered briefly in the eyes of those untested in real combat. But Monroe remained composed, her mind running through tactical scenarios with meticulous calculation. Every movement she made was deliberate. A subtle hand gesture here, a barely audible command there, guiding teams without ever revealing the full extent of her capabilities. Her presence was a steadying force amid the frenzy, yet it concealed a lethality that none could anticipate. As the enemy advanced, attempting to overwhelm defensive positions with suppressive fire and flanking maneuvers, Monroe began to move. She melted into the darkness, silent as a shadow, her body low and controlled. With each calculated step, she took positions that allowed her to cover the most ground, using natural cover, shadows, and the terrain itself to her advantage. Then, with deadly precision, she fired. Each shot was a whisper of death, each enemy neutralized before they could react. Snipers, assault teams, and infiltrators all fell under her unseen gaze. Her calculations were impeccable, her movements fluid yet exact. The Admiral, watching from the command post, could scarcely believe what she was witnessing. It was not merely marksmanship. It was orchestration, a lethal dance of strategy and skill executed under the cover of night. Monroe's mind ran multiple simulations simultaneously, assessing enemy patterns, calculating bullet trajectories, predicting where each soldier would move next. Her training, honed over years of clandestine operations and elite sniper drills, had been applied flawlessly, each instinct refined into a weapon of precision. The sounds of chaos became a symphony she conducted with unerring accuracy. By the time dawn threatened the horizon, every enemy position that had once seemed a threat had been neutralized, the base's integrity intact. The soldiers who had initially panicked now moved with renewed focus, inspired by a silent figure whose actions had turned potential disaster into a triumph. And then, only then, did the truth come into focus for Admiral Harrison. Monroe was not merely an officer coordinating from the sidelines. She was the hidden edge, the decisive force whose unseen hand had reshaped the night, a sniper of the highest caliber, whose skill had saved countless lives without drawing a single breath of recognition for herself. Even as the chaos subsided, the stories of her precision, patience, and lethal efficiency began to circulate quietly among the ranks. Whispers of a phantom sniper who had struck from nowhere, turning a night of potential defeat into a story of remarkable victory. As the first hints of dawn crept across the horizon, painting the sky in shades of muted orange and pale blue, the aftermath of the night's engagement became painfully clear. The ground was littered with remnants of the enemy's incursion, spent ammunition, smoldering equipment, and the eerie silence of a battlefield subdued without fanfare. Soldiers moved cautiously through the terrain, inspecting barricades and fortifications that had been tested and, in many cases, reinforced by Monroe's subtle guidance. Though her role had been invisible to nearly everyone, the results of her actions were undeniable. Every squad, every defensive position, every approach route that had once been vulnerable now stood secure, a testament to the silent genius who had operated in the shadows. Admiral Harrison, still absorbing the enormity of what had transpired, realized that Monroe's mastery extended beyond individual skill. It encompassed foresight, strategic awareness, and an almost uncanny ability to predict the enemy's intentions. Monroe's eyes, calm and unwavering, scanned the remaining perimeter, noting the faint tracks left by the retreating attackers and anticipating where they might regroup should they attempt another assault. She moved with the fluidity of someone intimately familiar with the terrain, each step deliberate, each gesture purposeful, as though the entire base were an extension of her own body. Commands were whispered into earpieces, subtle hand signals directed teams around potential hazards, and in every instance, Monroe remained several steps ahead of both friend and foe. Soldiers who had initially doubted her quiet demeanor now found themselves instinctively looking for her approval, seeking guidance from the one individual whose presence had single-handedly altered the course of the night. Every sniper nest she had engaged, every ambush she had preemptively neutralized, was a stroke in a masterful composition of defense and counterattack, blending lethal efficiency with tactical artistry. The Admiral, walking the lines alongside Monroe, could no longer deny the truth she had initially failed to see. Here stood a woman whose skill, patience, and silent authority had not only safeguarded her comrades, but had redefined the boundaries of what it meant to be a SEAL operative. Monroe's actions that night would not merely be recorded in mission logs. They would become case studies and training manuals, examples of the subtle interplay between stealth, intelligence, and lethal execution. As she moved through the base, tending to the wounded and coordinating the repair of compromised structures, her mind simultaneously calculated the probability of secondary attacks, assessed the strength of perimeter fortifications, and formulated contingency plans for every conceivable scenario. Every decision was precise, informed by years of experience in environments where hesitation could mean the difference between life and death. Soldiers watched her in awe, many silently acknowledging that they had witnessed a level of operational excellence that few would ever see firsthand. And yet Monroe's demeanor remained unassuming, almost casual, as if the lives she had saved and the position she had secured were merely the result of routine duty rather than extraordinary talent. The Admiral, however, understood the magnitude of what had occurred. She had watched as Monroe, alone in darkness, neutralized threat after threat, coordinating the base's defense with a combination of tactical genius and deadly accuracy that defied belief. The quiet officer, once thought to be a background figure, had emerged as the linchpin of survival, a phantom whose presence had altered the outcome of the entire operation. Conversations among soldiers, initially hushed whispers, now became a chorus of admiration, as teams recounted how a single unseen force had anticipated every maneuver, countered every attack, and ensured their survival with the precision of a master tactician. Beyond the immediate tactical victory, Monroe's actions had instilled a renewed sense of discipline, confidence, and cohesion within the unit. Teams that had previously operated with uncertainty and hesitation now moved with synchronized purpose, inspired by the example of calm authority and lethal precision that she had demonstrated. The base itself, once merely a strategic location on a map, had transformed into a testament to her quiet leadership and unparalleled skill. Even as she continued to observe, adjust, and refine defensive strategies in real time, the ripple effects of her actions were evident in every squad, every patrol, and every soldier who had survived the night. The enemy, having faced the wrath of a perfectly executed defense from which they had seen nothing, would carry the memory of the phantom sniper into subsequent operations, altering their approach, instilling fear, and granting her side a psychological edge that extended far beyond physical survival. And in the midst of it all, Monroe's composure never wavered. The same officer who had quietly monitored communications, managed logistics, and coordinated strategy now stood as the undisputed arbiter of battlefield effectiveness. Her hidden talents revealed not through boastful display, but through undeniable results. Admiral Harrison, finally grasping the enormity of Monroe's abilities, felt a mixture of relief, awe, and a profound sense of humility. She understood that leadership was not solely about issuing commands or maintaining appearances. It was about recognizing the potential within those who moved quietly among the ranks, acknowledging skill that was invisible until it manifested in moments of decisive impact. The lessons of the night were clear. Underestimation could be fatal, appearances were deceptive, and excellence often resided in the most unassuming individuals, waiting for the precise moment to demonstrate its full force. Monroe, having secured the base, saved countless lives, and shattered every expectation placed upon her, now returned to her position at the command post, blending once more into the rhythm of operations as if nothing extraordinary had occurred, leaving behind a legacy of silent dominance that would forever shape the culture, morale, and tactical mindset of everyone who had witnessed her in action. As the hours turned into evening, the base settled into a tense calm, the adrenaline of battle giving way to reflection and recovery. Soldiers moved among the wounded, reinforcing barricades and debriefing in small, intense clusters, all the while recounting moments when Monroe's unseen hand had decisively altered outcomes. Every story, every anecdote carried the same refrain: a quiet, unassuming officer who had turned the tide of battle with precision, foresight, and lethal skill. Admiral Harrison, now fully aware of the scope and brilliance of Monroe's actions, ensured that the official reports captured the significance of her intervention, noting that her decisive, covert maneuvers had prevented what could have been catastrophic losses. Beyond the immediate operational gains, Monroe's example set a new standard for leadership within the unit. Her calm composure under pressure, her ability to assess risks accurately, and her flawless execution demonstrated that true mastery often operated beyond the perception of those around it, manifesting only at critical moments when the stakes were highest. The soldiers, inspired by her actions, internalized these lessons, adjusting their own strategies, enhancing situational awareness, and recognizing that every member of a unit, regardless of rank or visibility, could possess skills that fundamentally altered mission outcomes. Monroe herself, however, remained understated, quietly returning to her duties as if the events of the night were merely another routine operation. Yet her colleagues, the Admiral, and even distant observers understood that she had redefined the parameters of effectiveness, courage, and precision in the modern battlefield. Discussions of her tactics spread quickly through training sessions, briefings, and digital storytelling channels, emphasizing the combination of strategic foresight, patience, and meticulous execution that characterized her approach. On social media and military forums, viewers of her brave stories marveled at the narrative, engaging with content, sharing insights, and commenting on how someone could operate so flawlessly in total darkness, neutralizing threats invisible to the naked eye. The story also sparked debates and discussions among strategists about the importance of hidden expertise, silent observation, and the value of operators who excelled without fanfare. Within the base, every operation thereafter carried the invisible mark of Monroe's influence, from tactical planning to execution, instilling a culture of precision, respect, and readiness. Soldiers, officers, and new recruits absorbed her example, learning that true power did not require loud demonstration, but was often found in calm observation, careful calculation, and decisive action at the exact moment it was needed. Even months later, when the base had returned to routine operations and normal training resumed, the memory of that night remained vivid. Monroe's presence was a constant reminder that heroism could be quiet, effectiveness could be invisible, and leadership could emerge from the shadows, exerting influence far beyond what was immediately apparent. Admiral Harrison, often reflecting on the engagement, emphasized Monroe's actions in briefings and morale talks, reinforcing the lesson that underestimation could be costly and that exceptional talent might be found in the least expected quarters. Every soldier who had witnessed or heard of the events carried with them a renewed sense of purpose, an understanding of vigilance, and an appreciation for the unseen forces that ensured survival and success. Monroe's legacy, while understated in her own perception, became a foundational story of operational excellence, influencing training, morale, and strategy across multiple deployments. And as the sun finally set over the ridge, casting long shadows over the base, it was clear that Monroe's influence extended far beyond the immediate tactical victory. She had reshaped perceptions of capability, inspired countless individuals, and cemented her place as a legend among the ranks. Her story, captured and immortalized in her brave stories, served not only as a thrilling account of battlefield ingenuity and courage, but also as a profound lesson. Appearances could deceive, the quietest individual could wield unmatched power, and true mastery often revealed itself only when it mattered most. To viewers, soldiers, and strategists alike, Monroe became a symbol of calculated excellence, a reminder that patience, precision, and silent strength could determine the fate of many, leaving a legacy that would echo through operations, teachings, and storytelling for years to come. And through it all, the call to engage with her story persisted. Subscribe and comment on where you're watching from, joining in the collective admiration for a woman who, in the total darkness of battle, had become the most brilliant light of the night, a phantom sniper whose legacy would inspire courage, discipline, and respect for generations to come.